Hello and welcome to episode 2 of That Dance Nerd Show. I'm Danielle Guillermo and I'm here with Heather Thomas of Alberta Ballet. Welcome, Heather.
Wow.
Absolutely, thanks for being here with us. So, how did you first start dancing? What drew you to it?
I was forced as a child. Not forced, but when I was 3, we lived on a farm and my mom had a horse that I would ride. And so then at the same time, my grandmother really wanted a ballerina and none of her daughters did it. So I was kind of the one that they chose to put into ballet.
Okay.
So I kind of had a battle as a growing up of wanting to do horseback riding, which I think is a lot of girls' dreams. But I also was in ballet. But it was so much fun growing up at Pennsylvania Regional Ballet with all my friends that I ended up sticking with that. I think when I was about 12 or 13, I kind of had to make the decision, like,
Okay.
which hobby do I want to pursue more? And around that time, I was kind of thinking more seriously about ballet, around 13, 14, of, is this a career I want?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I chose ballet in the end, obviously. But yeah, it was so fortunate at Pennsylvania Regional Ballet to be in contact with so many guest teachers that Judy Rice then kind of suggested to me to try out for a National Ballet School in Toronto.
Okay.
And so I was, I think, 14 when I auditioned.
Okay.
Went for the summer school. Then after that was accepted for the year-round program. And I was there from 2007 until 2010 when I graduated.
Okay. Those who maybe aren't familiar with life in a pre-professional, boarding training school, can you walk us through that a little bit? Like, what's a day in the life and what's the atmosphere?
So National Ballet School, I believe the limit right now is there's 24 students per class. Like, that's all that's allowed. So they're pretty small classes, and that's by grade. For National Ballet School, it's grade 6 to 12. So huge spread of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids are coming from Japan. Some kids are coming from Toronto. So the senior students, which I think is probably grade 9 to 12, we would have academics in the morning. I can't really remember exactly, probably 8 to 1 we would have academics.
Okay.
And then probably 2 until 5 ballet training class, pas de deux class, point. If you're working on a show, we typically would have rehearsals, and that's Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. Saturday we'd always have class, maybe rehearsals, just depending. I mean, the huge benefit of a school like that, they know exactly what you're doing. They know your workload at school. If you're in testing, maybe the ballet teachers will be a little less harsh on you that day, and vice versa, that, we would have a small break from academics being so tough if it was during shows, just because they want you to get a great education and also a great ballet education. So they were excellent at finding a balance, in my opinion. Because I know I looked before, I think when I knew that I kind of wanted to leave public high school, I looked at, I can't remember the name of the program. There's like a Keystone high school program you can do. And I was like, it would be so hard. I still want a diploma, definitely. Yeah. But to, focus so much on dance and go all the time and also do school would be really hard for me. So boarding school was a great solution for that. And you live right on campus. Your meals are taken care of, your laundry's taken care of. It's kind of,
wow.
Yeah, it's a very luxury situation. Like, it's quite luxurious, really.
Did you have to convince your parents to do it, or were they on board right away?
I think they were on board right away. I don't really remember a lot of conflict of like, I need to do this. I think my mom also saw that I didn't really want to be in Pennsylvania, and that there was like a huge benefit of me going, in that if I want to be professional, like this is the way to do it. There are a lot of great dance colleges that you can go to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I was like,
Yeah,
I want to do it sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. How do they assist you in placement, and how did you start to think about taking your next steps towards a professional career?
It's, in my opinion, one of the best schools for transitions.
Okay.
They have partnerships with dozens of schools around the world. Um, and they're connections that are established by teachers that are in the school or by previous students, kind of setting up relationships. So I actually was the first NBS graduate to go to the Joffrey Ballet School in Chicago, because there was a new training program that had been started there. And being an American, the directors of National Ballet School kind of suggested I maybe go back to the States.
Mm-hmm.
I auditioned for a few companies in that time, but definitely felt like I probably still needed a little bit of training.
Mm-hmm.
So the Joffrey Ballet School was fantastic. I had two really great teachers there that honed in on technique, a little bit more of performance experience, and yeah, and also, leaving boarding school, that everything's taken care of for you, to go for a year and kind of learn how to do my laundry, how to have things ready for the day. Like, that was great to have like a little bit of a transition before going to full company life.
So Joffrey, you were there for how long?
Really only probably 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time when I was at Joffrey, I, on a whim, went to Cincinnati. There was an audition. I didn't really think I'd get in, but one of my best friends from National Ballet School was like, "Oh, I'm going to, like, let's meet at the audition. Maybe we can at least hang out in the back of the room."
Yeah.
And so we went, and they offered me a job pretty quickly in the second company, which was a surprise,
Yeah.
but amazing. Cincinnati was a great first company for me. They're ranked, but they had a bit of flexibility within the ranks. Even as a second company member, I had tremendous experiences. I danced in the corps. I got to learn soloist parts that I did for our outreach programs and things like that. I worked with Devin Carney, who became a huge help in my career after that. He's now the director of Kansas City Ballet, and we have Victoria Morgan, who's there. They were great. The dancers were fantastic. And then from there, I was a little naive and didn't really audition. I kind of was like thinking maybe I would get a job there. I had definitely had great opportunities. And so then contracts came around. I didn't get handed one. So then I was kind of in panic mode of, okay, well, I need a job for next year. What am I going to do? And I think in that same weekend, Ballet Met had an audition in Columbus. Okay. And so I kind of talked to Devin, like, what do I do? Like, he set me up to Ballet Met, I think on a bit of a recommendation, and they didn't really have a job for me. Okay. There was I don't think they had apprentices at the time. They didn't really have an established second company or anything, but yeah, I went up. They offered me something. I still did company work. I did a little bit of outreach, but again, fantastic.
There's things that people don't really know about second companies and apprenticeships. And so along the way, did you ever need to work another job to support yourself? What kind of benefits did any of the places offer, if any? Yeah. Can you speak on that?
So Cincinnati, I remember having to talk to my parents about that one, because I had to sign a clause being like, I can't work a second job. Like, they really wanted you to totally dedicate your time, in that the pay wasn't fantastic. I think it's like a monthly stipend that you get, and it's barely enough to live on. Maybe it pays your rent for the month, but for food and groceries, I think I either had kind of depleted my savings account from my childhood at that point. And definitely my parents had to sign a waiver saying that they were going to continue to support me a little bit through that time. So I had no time for a second job when I was there, but thankfully at Ballet Met, there was a frozen yogurt shop like half a block from where I lived.
Mhm.
And my boss there was amazing. Even, when I went in to go for a job interview, I told her, like, I'm going to work from 8 a.m. until 6:30. And then I still need to work something so I can make
Mhm.
ends meet. Like, is this a job that is going to be easy enough on me mentally and physically that I can do it? And she's like, yes. Like, it was
Oh, good.
the perfect job that, I could still interact with the customers, but it really was not too much work.
Mhm.
And she was fantastic with scheduling me and, letting me not work for 2 weeks at a time during Nutcracker when it's
Okay.
crazy. And when I had a week, a couple days off, I could cram in a lot of shifts.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a fantastic job for dancers if they
So take notes.
frozen yogurt shop.
Find your local
Yeah.
frozen yogurt shop.
Yeah.
All right. So Ballet Met. How long were you there?
Just 1 year. I knew I didn't want to stay there.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to go back to Canada. And
Okay.
so I had already been looking at Alberta Ballet.
Mhm.
Really, I loved Canada. I loved being in Toronto and knew that a lot of the Canadian companies just had better contracts. You work longer, you have your unions are better here. Quality of life is just that much better.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think about halfway through Ballet Met, like my year there, I'd already kind of been in contact with Alberta Ballet. So anyway, I just was like, I'm going to be in Calgary at this time. Can I take company class? Not even as an audition, just I want
Mhm.
to see your company. I want to see what your studios are like, what the atmosphere is. So I did that in October
Okay.
of the year before I actually auditioned. Then that next January, I believe. And to audition, you have to send in your headshot, resume, I think, videos if you have them of performance material, dance shots. Um, so then after I did that, I was accepted to come audition in Calgary. Um, Pretty quickly got a job offer, which was fantastic because then I was, kind of knew that this then was like that was a full company position. And once I
Mhm.
had that, my security was definitely better than a second company.
Talk us through a typical day in the company.
So I typically arrive at the company at 8:45.
Okay.
I stretch, I warm up, I bring my dog to work. So
Nice.
I have to play with her in the morning a little bit to burn some energy. 9:30 class starts, and that
Mhm.
goes until 11. And we're a unionized company through Canadian Actors Equity Association.
Okay.
So we have very strict breaks. So from 11 until 11:15, I have kind of my cool down period
Mhm.
of, you know, looking at the schedule for the day and knowing which rehearsals I'm going to be in, kind of going downstairs, getting all the shoes I'm going to need for the day, eating a snack. And then we'll have 3 hour blocks, like 3 1 hour blocks of rehearsal, 1 hour lunch, and then another 3 hours after that.
Okay.
We have 5 minute breaks
Every hour.
every hour. Like sometimes when we're preparing more than one ballet, you'll go from doing a heavy, like Sleeping Beauty classical ballet,
Mhm.
and then the next room, something very contemporary is going on, and then you'll swap. And
So how many different ballets do you think you might be working on at any given time?
usually no more than two.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a third if we have like an extra tour or there's a gala or something, but typically just two at a time.
Do you do any cross training or anything in addition to complement your ballet work?
During the day, not much. Like
Mhm.
when I get home, I'll ice and I'll roll out, but that's about it. And taking the dog for a walk is
Mhm.
about it. But Saturday mornings, I do a thing called fitness table, which
Okay.
is kind of like a cross of like Pilates and yoga, and I do that every Saturday morning. That's mostly my cross training.
Okay.
I do a bit of rock climbing. which is not, I wouldn't say is the best cross training. I'm very safe with it, but yeah, I live in the Rocky Mountains, so that's something that I picked up while I've been living here. And hiking, of course, like I feel like everyone that lives in the Rockies does a bit of hiking, just because
you're very active anyway. I mean, not to say that being a dancer isn't active enough, in those full days, but you already have a very active lifestyle. Any other hobbies?
I sew semi-professionally.
Oh, right. You have skirts, yes?
Yes. So my machines are broken right now.
Oh.
So I've been on hiatus for about a year, but yeah,
Okay.
I've made skirts for people, for different competitions.
Okay.
And for, I think every lady in the company now has a skirt made by me, which is fun. It's like a fun thing that I just kind of figured out one day and I've been working on ever since. I've also designed designed costumes for Alberta Ballet, which was hard. It was a new experience, but I think that's kind of becoming a hobby slowly.
Okay. I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock. And go. What's your favorite food?
Waffles.
Favorite book?
Anything Murakami.
Favorite word?
Oh. I don't know.
Favorite movie?
Oh, jeez. Princess Bride.
Ooh. Best vacation?
China.
Oh, okay. We kind of covered this, but favorite ballet that you've done?
I think Cinderella.
Cool. And time is up. Good job. Good job. It kind of polled the audience ahead of time for questions that they may want to ask you. And some of them we've covered throughout the interview, but one thing, and I think you could really speak to this given, your veteran status, what keeps you motivated to keep going? How have you managed to stay motivated through the ups and downs of your career, through the day-to-day when your body hurts? What's your source of inspiration and motivation?
That's tough some days. That's really tough some days. I think knowing what you want to be working on, I think sometimes you'll do a ballet that you don't want to be doing and you're just in the back doing, being decorative furniture, more or less, is what it feels like. And
waving your flower.
Yeah. And I think you just have to remember that, maybe there's somebody in the audience, this is their first time. And if they're going to be like, oh, tree number 3 in the back is having a miserable time, why am I coming to this? I think just remembering that you're performing, and then this applies to Nutcracker a lot, pretty often, that, remember it's somebody's first time and maybe your performance will inspire them to, either take ballet class or donate to the arts more often. So remembering who you're doing it for. And, in rehearsal periods, it's the same. It's also, you're going to remember your rehearsal more often than your shows. And being miserable in rehearsal helps no one. You got to motivate yourself to constantly work on technique or work on artistry. Just knowing what you want to be working on and who you want to be as a performer, I think is good motivation.
Good. And then finally, what is your advice to aspiring professionals?
I think for students and for people just getting into companies, being good at accepting criticism is huge. I feel like that's a learning curve for young dancers of, it feels like people are picking at you, but they're doing it because they want you to do your best. And I think that's hard to hear constantly. I think that took me a long time to get used to. And knowing that it's beneficial to just be told maybe you look terrible and figure out how to look better, more constructive than that. But I think always find somebody around to look up to, even if it's like, you know, for ballet class, I like how this person does their tendus.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out how to do your tendus like that. Or I like how this person, their attitude all day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take something from everyone. Or, you know, I don't like how this person approaches these things, you know, don't follow in their footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us today. You know, continue to watch That Dance Nerd Show for more interviews with awesome dance professionals like Heather Thomas. So thanks again for joining us. Thank you, Heather, for being with us today, and we'll see you soon.